Logistics response and support, including restoration of critical lifelines in the Emergency Operations Center. Welcome to a just-in-time training based on the Bay Area Regional Catastrophic Earthquake Logistics Response Plan. Disaster events destroy distribution systems that maintain essential supplies in a community, leaving survivors in need of life-sustaining commodities such as food and water. The EOC is responsible for the support and coordination of first responders, commodity distribution, and the restoration of critical lifelines such as power, water, wastewater, and fuel systems to help communities recover.
The role of logistics management is to track all resources and capabilities within the state of California and provide those resources when an emergency or disaster occurs.
You've checked in, received the appropriate vest, and been assigned a workspace. You may not have worked in an EOC before, or maybe you're not familiar with logistics response operations. That's okay, there are resources and people that will help you be successful. Although this time can be stressful, the EOC team will work with you for a smooth response and expedient recovery.
If you're new to the EOC, one of the best places to get information that's going to allow you to do your function more effectively is to look at the resources that have been given to you, especially a job checklist that details your roles and responsibilities. Talk to your section chief, the people that you work for. They'll help guide you and prioritize your efforts for the most part. And then also, you can also reach out to your local emergency manager, the local Office of Emergency Services staff. They've got a wealth of information, and even if they don't have an immediate answer for you, they know exactly where to turn to.
During this 20-minute just-in-time training, we'll introduce the fundamental components of logistics response and support in an incident, your core responsibilities, and how to prioritize objectives within the first 60 days following an incident. We will use the term logistics response and logistics support interchangeably as we discuss supporting the receipt and deployment of commodities, as well as first responders to the affected areas. This just-in-time training is one in a series based on the 8 Bay Area catastrophic earthquake plans. The introductory video includes basic EOC responsibilities and an introduction to the Standardized Emergency Management System, or SEMS. Whether you are in an EOC during the first, second, or third time period of the disaster response, it may be helpful to refer to the Bay Area Regional Catastrophic Earthquake Logistics Response Plan, its Critical Lifelines Restoration Annex, and the Logistics Annex specific to your jurisdiction as you watch this training. Additionally, you may look to the maps in Appendix B of the Regional Mass Transportation and Evacuation Plan for estimated roadway damages and proposed locations for logistics support operations. You can also reference the California Emergency Function 7 Resources Annex for help. This training focuses on logistics support for incoming first responders, commodity distribution for populations affected by the incident, and critical lifeline restoration as coordinated from the EOC. Keep in mind that your role may be slightly different based on your level of government, your position within the EOC, and the procedures defined by your jurisdiction. Stick around to test your knowledge of logistics response operations in an EOC with a quiz at the end of this video. To help you understand your role, it is important to first understand the fundamental components of logistics response and support operations. The EOC is responsible for coordinating the acquisition, mobilization, and transport of resources and commodities for areas impacted by a disaster.
What logistics management is the flow of people or flow of goods and services from the origin to the point of use.
This includes the coordination of logistics staging areas, or LSAs, and points of distribution, or pods. An LSA is a way station designed to receive, stage, and deploy large amounts of commodities, supplies, and resources for distribution from pods to the public.
Life-sustaining commodities would be water, ice, and food.
LSAs may also be used to temporarily house first responders or emergency service workers. Detailed information about LSAs can be found in the Bay Area LSA Field Operations Guide, or FOG, and LSA Manual. FEMA provides direction on how to organize or type pods based on the size of the population in need. The local EOC is responsible for coordinating the activation of pods to meet the needs of the community.
There are several different kinds of pods. There's the pedestrian pod, where it's only set up so that people can walk in, and then there's a vehicle pod where you could drive in, and there's various sizes of each one depending upon the number of residents you need to serve. A pod, or a point of distribution site, it moves commodities, and what it does is it provides commodities to the public, and it could be water, food, sanitary supplies, and also ice. But also what goes into a pod is the organization itself, the operations. The pod would require personnel, whether skilled or unskilled, as well as equipment and supplies.
Detailed information about pods can be found in the Bay Area Pod Field Operations Guide and Manual. It is essential for an EOC to consider people with disabilities and others with access and functional needs when establishing a pod.
You gotta find experts on access and functional needs who can help you make good decisions, but most importantly, help you get the resources that you're gonna need to respond properly and thinking of the short and the long-term processes that you have to deal with.
The EOC Logistics section supports incoming first responder base and camp locations. Bases are used to receive and store equipment for first responders. Camps are used to shelter and feed first responders, as well as for team meetings. You may refer to Section 6 of the Regional Logistics Plan for more details on supporting logistics operations for incoming first responders and equipment. A successful recovery after an event is contingent on local government and private sector partnerships working together to restore critical lifelines in order to reestablish supply chains including fuel, electrical power, water, and wastewater systems.
During a disaster, we know that transportation will be hindered, so we work closely with Caltrans in reestablishing certain supply routes in order for us to get into the affected area.
As a part of logistics response, the restoration of critical lifelines requires a close partnership between the EOC and the utility agencies and/or service providers for the restoration of fuel, power, water, and wastewater systems. Some of these partners include Pacific Gas and Electric, public and private water and wastewater utility agencies, and private sector fuel distributors such as Chevron. Refer to Appendix G to learn more about the essential components of critical lifeline restoration. Depending on the scope of the incident, the EOC may integrate a private sector liaison or activate a Business Operations Center, or BOC, to support and coordinate business partnerships for critical lifeline restoration.
A private sector, or what's called a Business Operations Center, private sector representative, that is a volunteer that works in the Emergency Operations Center to help reach out to the business community.
Whether activating a BOC or integrating a private sector liaison, be sure to coordinate with the BOC at the State Operations Center or SOC. Guides for establishing a BOC may be found on the Bay Area UASI website. Logistics response is the all-encompassing function that serves as a foundation supporting the operations of all the Bay Area regional catastrophic earthquake plans. For example, activating logistics points of distribution operations enables commodities such as water and food to be delivered to support local assistance centers and mass care and shelter operations. Another example is that establishing logistics staging areas provides a location for resources needed by first responders to be delivered and stored to ensure debris clearance operations are supported. Additionally, working closely with critical lifeline providers such as private fuel companies supports evacuation operations and the repair of transportation systems. The purpose of the Logistics Response Plan is to coordinate support for all the functions of operational response during and after a disaster. Next, we'll introduce your core responsibilities working in an EOC logistics section. These include communication and coordination, resource management, information management, and assisting with public information. Communication and coordination refers to your role as the link between government and partners that provide support and resources for logistics response and support operations, including restoration of critical lifelines. We'll discuss coordination with the government. You will interact with your counterparts in other government agencies as appropriate, including at the field, local government, operational area, and regional levels, the State Operations Center, or SOC, and the Joint Field Office, or JFO, where federal resource coordination occurs. As a part of the logistics section in the EOC, you will work directly with other branch and section staff to carry out your responsibilities. Many functions in the EOC rely on logistics support to accomplish the incident objectives, such as activating pods and establishing logistics staging areas.
From a logistics section perspective, we actually have positions within our section that shadow other sections, including operations and the plan section, so we can lean forward knowing that resources will be needed and requested soon.
Don't be afraid to ask your colleagues questions when you need help. You will also communicate and coordinate with non-governmental partners that may have representatives in the EOC, including non-governmental organizations such as the American Red Cross, transportation agencies, and private sector businesses. This includes the essential partnerships required for the restoration of critical lifelines to reestablish supply chains in affected communities. Private businesses play an essential role in both commodity distribution and critical lifeline restoration.
So an emergency operations center can partner with businesses in a variety of different ways. One is a county may already have an established vendor list of companies that they work with on a daily basis. So the logistics section can work with those vendors.
Ask your section chief for agency and partner contact information. Let's review what we've learned about communication and coordination. Regularly communicate with government agencies and other partners in and outside of the EOC. Other partners may include transportation agencies and private sector businesses. The restoration of critical lifelines requires coordination with fuel, electrical power, water, and wastewater system entities such as PG&E, East Bay Municipal Utility District, and Chevron to reestablish supply chains and facilitate full community recovery. Resource management involves brokering various types of requests that go both directions. It is likely that in your role you will make requests to other levels of government and also respond to requests that you receive. Resource management within an EOC supports the operation of pods, LSAs, bases, and camps. Resources that may be needed for these operations include water, food, sanitation items, durable medical equipment, transportation, facilities, and staff. Be sure to consider FEMA resource typing when requesting resources for pod operations. As logistics section staff, you will also be responding to resource requests for internal EOC needs, such as providing food for the EOC staff and EOC supplies. It is your responsibility to fulfill submitted resource requests using resources within your jurisdiction first. If the necessary resources are not available, you may complete and submit an EOC resource request form to the next higher level of government, such as the operational area or state. Ask your section chief how to access your EOC resource request form. Be aware that resource requests and other forms may be prepared electronically using a software tool such as Web EOC if available. The private sector may be a key support mechanism for logistics response and support.
So the private sector is a very broad set of companies with different capabilities. So you have some companies that actually produce the goods, and other companies that transport, and then there are companies that may provide volunteers at the actual, or maybe host a distribution site.
Let's review what we've learned about resource management. You will receive requests from other levels of government. To fulfill these requests, you will use the EOC resource request forms. You will manage resource requests to support operations in the field such as pods, LSAs, bases, and camps. as well as supporting logistical needs within the EOC such as food and office supplies for EOC staff. Information management is required to successfully fulfill internal EOC resource requests and estimate needs to establish and operate pods, bases, and camps in collaboration with the state and FEMA. The information you collect will be used for situation status reports and the development of public messages. As logistics section staff, the type of information you will collect and share includes an estimated number of people needing life-sustaining commodities, types of commodities needed, number and types of first responders coming in and their associated equipment, support needs for incoming first responders, pod locations and type of pods, such as pedestrian or vehicular, status of critical lifelines such as water, wastewater, fuel, and power. On an ongoing basis, you will need to track commodity use and distribution rates for the various pods.
There is just so much to know about logistics because it's knowing what you already have because that you could deploy, but also what you don't have, and also know who you have to go to get those items.
Let's review the essentials of information management. Regularly communicate with internal and external government and private sector partners to collect necessary information. Track essential information such as types and numbers of commodities needed, necessary support needed for incoming first responders, and ongoing status of critical lifelines. Data you collect will be used for situation status reports and public messages. The public will need to know how they can access life-sustaining supplies after an event. As the logistics coordinator in the EOC, you are responsible to provide accurate and timely information to the Public Information Officer, or PIO, who is responsible for message delivery to the public. You may also be asked to send this information to the Joint Information Center, or JIC. The information you provide may be shared with 211 or sometimes another designated number depending on the area, which is a toll-free 24-hour call center that connects callers with community resources and provides disaster-related information.
The Joint Information Center can provide a myriad of types of messaging, such as where pods are, points of distribution, providing messaging for people to stay out of a particular area, providing messaging to where critical facilities are, such as hospitals, and whether or not they're operational.
Here are examples of public messages that you would need to provide the PIO.
Food, water, and ice is being distributed at your nearby vehicular point of distribution. Boil water orders are in effect. Call this number to check the status of power system repairs in your area. I-80 will be open in both directions by this date and time.
Look for templates for a variety of pre-scripted public messages in Appendix E of the Regional Logistics Response Plan or your local operational area plans. Keep in mind the media may wish to visit pod sites. This should be coordinated with the jurisdiction's Public Information Officer. Let's review your role in getting information out to the public. Contact the PIO and the JIC to coordinate critical messages. 211 can be used as a communication resource. Locate message templates and modify pre-scripted messages as needed. Look to your plan's response timeline as a guideline for prioritizing objectives within each disaster response time period. Operational response is focused on the first 60 days following an event, broken into 3 distinct time periods. The first 3 days, or 72 hours, day 4 through 14, and the 6-week span between day 15 and day 60. During each phase, you will implement action steps for the core responsibilities you just learned about. The priorities for logistics response and support in the first 3 days will be to conduct an incident analysis and determine commodity needs. Core objectives for the first time period include food, water, support for EOC staff. Assess the status of priority transportation routes, infrastructure, and critical lifeline systems. Gather information on available private sector commodities. Identify locations and sizes of affected populations, including people with disabilities and others with access and functional needs. Identify sites for bases, camps, LSAs, and pods, and plan for supporting related operations. Determine priority transportation routes for incoming first responders to support operations for bases and camps. Identify commodity distribution priorities to get food and water to the most affected populations. Manage incoming resource requests from other EOC sections, branches, and units such as care and shelter or transportation. During days 4 through 14, the priorities are to open LSAs and pods, coordinate distribution of commodities, and coordinate with the operations section to support restoration of critical lifelines to reestablish supply chains. Objectives to carry out during this phase include open, support, and operate LSAs and pods, support movement of commodities between LSAs and pods, and distribution of these commodities to the public. Coordinate with the operations section to support restoration of critical lifelines to reestablish supply chains. Coordinate public messages with PIO regarding commodity distribution and open transportation routes. Acquire, maintain, and deploy resources to fulfill all resource requests per the EOC resource request system. The priorities for day 15 through 60 include demobilizing operations while continuing to serve residents in need of commodities. Your objectives for the third time period are: continue to monitor distribution activities of pods. Monitor and coordinate the capabilities of agencies, vendors, and other organizations to support the distribution of commodities. Identify opportunities to close pods and consolidate distribution activities to remain in the most impacted areas. Demobilize non-essential pods and LSAs. Continue to support restoration of critical lifelines to reestablish supply chains such as water, wastewater, power, and fuel. Depending on the reestablishment of supply chains, logistics support for response operations may continue beyond 60 days. Refer to your supervisor for a checklist on general EOC logistics tasks to help you establish appropriate priorities and objectives during your EOC assignment.
The one thing about logistics is that you are supporting what's going on in the field and understanding that you're not managing everything that's going on out there. You're part of the puzzle to make things move smoothly.
As a result of this introductory training, you should take away a better understanding of your role as logistics section staff in an emergency operations center. Here are some resource references to learn more about logistics response at various government levels. These include Emergency Support Function 7, Logistics and Resource Support of the National Response Framework, California State Emergency Plan EF7 Resources, Regional Emergency Coordination Plan, Base Plan and Subsidiary Plan, Bay Area Regional Catastrophic Earthquake Logistics Response Plan, and companion materials. POD, Field Operations Guide and Manual. LSA, Field Operations Guide and Manual. Local and Operational Area Catastrophic Earthquake Logistics Plans. To learn more, visit your local emergency management office or Office of Emergency Services. Let's test your understanding of logistics response in an EOC. Which level of government is responsible for managing logistics pod locations and operations? A. Local, B. Federal, C. Regional, D. State. Local government EOC logistics section staff will identify locations for pod and LSA sites and, if needed, will initiate resource requests for pod operations staff and commodities for distribution. Why would an EOC need to support the establishment of bases and camps? A. To support the needs of incoming responders. B. To provide storage for incoming response equipment. C. To provide a location for incoming responder team meetings. D. All of the above. In a large or catastrophic incident, hundreds or thousands of response personnel may be deployed to the affected area. Supporting incoming responders with gathering locations and the storage for related response equipment are all necessary reasons for establishing bases and camps. What type of pods are usually set up by local government and supported by FEMA? A. Pedestrian. B. Vehicle or mobile. C. Online. D. Both A and B. After an event, a pod can be set up as a walk-in or drive-in center. Reference the POD FOG for details. Who is your primary partner in the EOC to coordinate supporting restoration of critical lifelines? A. Finance Section. B. Care and Shelter Branch. C. Operations Section. D. Both A and B. Look to the Operations section in your EOC to coordinate supporting critical lifelines restoration, such as transportation, fuel, water, and power systems. Thank you for taking the time to test your knowledge about logistics response in the EOC.